There's nothing better than playing a new game and knowing you're going to be sinking a good 60 hours or so into the experience. Dragon Age, Mass Effect, Pillars of Eternity, Oblivion, Skyrim. I've played each of these games multiple times, and every time I have to get used to all the mechanics and features again. Each game is filled with depth and complexity and lore, and if it's your first time playing, you might have to do some homework to learn just what the heck it is you're actually doing. But sometimes you just want to pick up a game and go. No thinking, no studying beforehand, no emotional investment, just pure instinct. You want something that looks good, something that feels good, and something that won't require a ton of learning. A game that you might mind-numbingly open and play just for 5 minutes while you're waiting for something. Or maybe you have a group of friends that you want to play games with, but some members of the group aren't really into gaming. Sometimes you just want to play a nice, simple game. When I say simple games, I don't mean to undermine any of the work done on these games. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know what even the first step to making a game is. When I mean simple game, I mean simple design, simple gameplay, but I don't mean it was simple to make. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, I like to get into some examples of what I'm talking about and highlight the things I really like about them. Now there are obviously hundreds and thousands of these games, so I'm not even going to pretend like I'm going to cover them all. I've chosen some of my personal favorites, but by no means is this the definitive list of good simple games. I'm leaving out flash games and mobile games because that's a completely different monster in itself, but you'll see them in the background from time to time. The games I chose are just games I personally like and think represent the idea that I'm trying to convey. I'm looking for games where the objective is immediately clear, games where you don't need to look at the controls for more than a few seconds, if at all. A lot of these games you'll find, while they're easy to learn, they can be very difficult to master. As for the looks, I don't really care much for the appearance of these games, but you'll find many of them are very stylized in their own way. It's also important to me that I don't oversimplify any games for the sake of this list either. If I can't explain to you everything that you can do within a 30-second time window, it's probably a step above what I'm trying to talk about. T-Rex Run. Yeah, it doesn't get any more simple than this, and a good portion of you have probably played this at one point or another without even knowing it had a name. It's the game that shows up in Google Chrome when you're not connected to the internet. 2 controls, space for jump, down for duck, which, until I made this video, I had no idea you could duck. Objective, make it as far as you can, and that's it. Now, I wouldn't say it's the best game, and I don't think anyone will be upset at me for saying that, but anytime it shows up, as frustrated as I am in that moment, I always end up going for at least an attempt or two before I go back to figuring out why I'm not connected to the internet. I certainly wouldn't recommend playing this one for long periods of time because it really starts to bug your eyes after a while, but for what it is, it's fun.
Divekick!
Divekick obviously looks amazing, but the gameplay only has 2 buttons, jump and kick. Once you hit your opponent once, you win the round, and oftentimes it will be up to first to 5 wins or something like that. Sometimes it almost feels too limiting because you can't even control which direction you go, but if you have a group of pals and fancy yourself a quick little tournament, it can be a lot of fun. There are a lot of different characters, each with multiple skins. Every character has their own playstyle, and it can take a while until you find one that really works for you. Truthfully, I cannot for the life of me get the hang of this game. Looking at it, you wouldn't think this is a game where people can really get good and have deep, complex strategies, but those people absolutely exist. There are little bars that fill up and give you bonuses and special moves, but I won't even pretend to understand what any of it means or how it works. Regardless if I'm any good at it or not, which I'm definitely not, I still have a lot of fun with it. I love Nidhogg. Nidhogg is great. I've had 3 tournaments with people I went to school with, and we've ended up playing over 100 games in a single night. Your objective is to kill your opponent and run to the end screen. You can stab them, jump over them, throw your sword, make them fall into a pit. Once you have the most recent kill, you're free to just run as fast as you can without even ever fighting. Easy to learn, hard to master. There are 4 different map types, and you can fiddle around with options if you want to make it more interesting, but I honestly prefer to play the game just as it is. Games can be over in a matter of seconds, but I've also seen games go as long as 9 minutes. It gets intense, and the longer the game goes on, the more pressure you feel. The only negative thing I have to say about it is that when you have 2 people of completely different skill levels, it can get really one-sided. But when you hit that perfect matchup, pure beauty. Now there is a Nidhogg too, but I haven't personally played it. Just looking at it, it changed a lot of things I liked about the original game. They added weapons, tons of maps, and the ability to customize your character a little bit more, but none of it ever really made me want to give it a try. I'm sure it's fine in its own right, but I really like number 1, and I just prefer to stick with that. I'm a Canadian boy, and I love me some hockey. The game series I probably played the most in my life is actually the NHL series. It's my perfect zone-out game where I can just listen to a podcast or a YouTube video in the background while I'm playing, something I know a lot of you guys do with my videos. But back in the day, there was NHL 2002 Hitz, which was just a ridiculous arcade-style hockey game where realism was the last thing on your mind. Today we have Super Blood Hockey, which is also a great hockey game that you don't have to be a hockey fan to enjoy. However, there's one game that came out recently which is a great combination of realistic hockey but still good arcade fun, and that game is Slapshot. Slapshot looks ridiculous, and I absolutely adore it. Pretty much every hockey game, going back to NHL 94, had a mechanic where the puck would attach itself to your player once you had possession. So if you suddenly turned around or skated backwards, you wouldn't have to worry about the puck flying off your stick. Slapshot has no such mechanic. You're essentially a peg with a hockey stick attached, and all you have is the ability to rotate 360 degrees. Teams consist of 3, and while there's no goalie, players will generally take turns playing as one. You can press shift to boost and space to slow down, and besides that, go wild, score more goals than your opponent. It's like bumper cars out there. Now, I'm terrible at this game, so when I score it feels like a huge deal. But some players are really, really good, and you just stand and watch in awe as you can only dream of being that good. I will say, for an online game, I've encountered very few trolls trying to score on themselves or ruin the game for everyone. Now, the basic game is free, but as you score and get assists, you can unlock different things to customize your character. If you want to actually use them, you have to buy the Slappy Pass, which is about $10. Now, if you're a hockey fan and you're looking for some fun action but only have maybe 5 minutes, I would definitely recommend giving this a try. It's hard. I'm terrible. Boy, is it fun. Mini Metro is this amazing, simple experience that's fun for anyone who likes management-type games. You're tasked with running the public transportation of any given location. You have to create routes so that the right shapes go to the right stops. As you go further along, you get more trams, more routes, more bridges or tunnels, and more shapes start popping up. While minimalistic in style, I personally think it looks great. There are 4 game types: normal, where if the stations overcrowd, you lose; extreme, where once a track is placed, it's permanently there and you can't change it; endless, which is my personal favorite, where stations can't be overcrowded so the game just kinda goes on forever and you can just chill; and creative, where you can just mess around with the map customization and make whatever you want. One thing I love about this game is that there's no money. You don't have to spend cash to buy more trams or manage your resources. It's all about creating the most efficient transit system you can, and the game doesn't throw any distractions at you, so you can focus on it. Now, depending on how you want to play it, it can either be a high-stress situation or just a nice, quiet time helping shapes get from place to place. Now that you hopefully understand what I mean when I say a simple game, let's talk about what they mean and represent. Number one, the main thing they represent to me is accessibility. Because there are so many of these types of games on mobile platforms, the term gamer is changing and evolving with every passing second. There are many people who have never picked up a game controller but still have logged hundreds of hours into games because they can play on their phones. This is of course not to say that mobile games can't be complicated. I don't even want to think about how much time I've sunk into a game like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Accessibility is a huge topic in the gaming industry right now. There are many that argue that newer games shouldn't even have a difficulty setting, that if you can't beat the level, too bad. You have to keep trying and get better until you can, which is an old school mentality that most older games followed. Take Super Mario 64 for example. Some stars are just naturally harder to get than others. There's no option to move a star, so it's slightly easier to get. If you don't have the skill to get it, you just don't get that star. However, on the other side of that argument, you have people like myself, where I don't always play games for the strategy and challenge. Sometimes I just want to absorb myself into a story without worrying that I'm going to get frustrated at not being able to beat a boss or get stuck on a puzzle. I remember one time at my old job, someone asked me what I was playing at the time, and I said I was replaying Skyrim. They then asked, "Oh, what difficulty?" It was such an odd question to me. Skyrim to me has always been a game about exploration, discovery, and a little bit of story here and there. The Elder Scrolls in general have always been a great mix of story and challenge. You might lose to a boss here and there and have to replay it, but you won't get stuck for hours and hours and eventually shut off the game out of frustration. The reason I bring any of this up is because these games don't generally have much of a story or emotional investment. You can play mindlessly, or you can create your own investment. Most of the games I mention here are done within the first 5 minutes of you playing it, and any emotion you put into the game is completely done on your own. You don't need to load a save or remember what you did the last 3 times you played the game. You can pick it up and instinctively feel what you need to do. Take any non-gamer who understands technology, show them one of the games I talked about here, and more than likely they'll be able to understand how everything works within a few minutes. I would hope that we can all agree that accessibility and allowing more people to play games is a positive thing for the gaming community. We're not trying to take away the 60-hour RPGs, and in fact, I love games like that. Games like Pillars of Eternity even have an option to simply play through and experience the story. But if you're looking for a strategic challenge, you can find that there as well. Pillars has an exceptional story, and I wouldn't want someone to miss out on it just because the game was too hard for them. It may seem like I'm getting off topic here, but in the end it goes back to these games that allow us to keep playing with limited time. Not everyone has an hour to spare every night to play an RPG. These are games that we can play at our lunch break at work or during commercials of a hockey game. Games that don't require tons of backstory or prior gameplay knowledge to enjoy. I love deep, complex, long game commitments. I love a game that makes me cry and leaves me feeling like I don't know what it means to be human anymore. But sometimes you just need to be able to relax, turn off your brain, and play a game with literally zero stakes. Maybe you simply don't have the time to invest yourself into such a long experience. These games allow gamers to continue to be gamers, and allow for others to learn and join in. But perhaps you don't agree. Perhaps these games have oversimplified what it means to be a game. Maybe you feel entirely different about what I've dubbed a simple game. In 2 weeks on June the 7th, I'll be releasing a podcast where I answer some of your comments. Tell me your thoughts. Let me know what you think about simple games as a whole. Let's keep the conversation going. Hey guys, my name is GhostBoy259. Thanks for checking out the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. It's pretty different than what I've done before, but hopefully you guys like the idea and support it as I continue to find my voice and try to make a name for myself here. Reality Escape is pretty much a show where I'm going to take a topic and kind of dive down a little deep. as you saw with this one. Thanks for blowing up the tower defense video. I had such little expectations for it, so to see it do so well was really shocking for me, actually. If you want to contact me directly or just want to know what's going on, when the new video is coming out, all that stuff, you can follow me on Twitter at ghostboy259, or if you just want to know stuff, not necessarily what I think, but just related to the channel directly, you can follow at RealityEscapeYT. We also have a gameplay channel called Jafferdub, which has been pretty quiet this year, but we're going to be starting it up again real soon. As I said, in 2 weeks' time from this being uploaded, so June 7th, we're going to be doing an episode of Escaped Reality, which is our Aftermath podcast. Now, feel free to leave comments below telling me maybe if there's a game that you thought I missed that should have been on this list or something like that. But if you want a chance to actually have your comment read on the podcast, we're more likely to pick something that's a little more relevant that continues the conversation. So like I said, let me know what you think about simple games. Maybe you disagree and think that accessibility is a bad thing, and I would love to know why you think accessibility is a bad thing. Anything I said, pick it apart, let me know what you think, and we'll answer your comments in 2 weeks. Until then, guys, have a good day. I'll see you soon.